starting that again. So welcome to my channel. This is Newbar and I will be talking about knitting. So it's been a while since my last English video. I think it's been like months. I think it was like maybe like in spring last year or something. But I finally made it. Let's hope I'll be able to make it again. But yeah, so just like a recap, stuff happening. So I've always wanted to put out English videos, but it's just been really hectic on my side for the last few months, and I've really been struggling even putting out the Korean videos, so it wasn't really possible for me to juggle both. And like, yeah, I just got really behind on YouTube content, and like I've always wanted to do it. But so today I'm here. Let's go for it. So I don't know, I have plans, but I never like follow my plans, so I hope it will go well. But the plan is in the future, for the upcoming year, months, I don't know what, is to try to put out like a podcasty episode here and there, just to catch up with like my knitting life. So I'll be like, it'll just be like a regular podcast content, but it'll just not be as regular. Okay, that didn't make sense, but trying to squeeze it here and there. Let's hope it works. I know that I haven't been good last year with regular content, and also I have no idea if it's going to be possible to keep up with English content, but I know that there are a lot of you who have been waiting, who have been sticking with the non-English content, even though that you don't understand what I say, and even though I do not put closed captions on my videos. I know, thank you so much for sticking with me, sticking with my channel. I've got like a handful of comments and direct messages, and I'm really sorry. I'm really bad at keeping up with all of these, but I do check them. So like it depends. Like the DMs do get lost, and I do not know where they get lost, but sometimes they get lost. Do not understand how Instagram works, but there you go. So I have heard you, I have been hearing you, I have been wanting to do it as well, but just, you know, life doesn't always help you do whatever you want and putting up YouTube videos. So to start this year, it's pretty late in the year. Let's say that we start the new year on Chinese New Year. So just a disclaimer, I'm not Chinese, but so I'm Korean, and we're here in Korea, Seoul, South Korea. Seoul is the capital of South Korea, and I think that nowadays Korea has become like pretty much famous. I don't know, it sounds strange to say this, but I was actually born in Paris, and I've lived in France for like half of my childhood, I guess. And like as a young kiddo who was born in Paris, who looked completely not French, who looked Asian as hell, who did not really know where Korea was, what Korea was, and like what Asia was, and what the world was, and like what countries were. I just like was like, you know, like it's like when somebody asks you where are you from, it's just like I just reply like a robot, oh, I'm from South Korea, and like I do not know what South Korea is, but it was just like a automatic reply for me. And at the time, like nobody really knew what Korea was. Like I would always say it's next to Japan, it's next to China. I didn't really know what that was either. But like everybody would reply to me like in Chinese or Japanese. Personally, people can think that it's like being racist. I don't think it was being racist. It's just like that they really didn't know what Korea was. And I don't know, maybe I was very I was maybe too much positive about it, but I didn't really take it as an insult or take it badly, and I felt that they were just trying to be nice to me. Like the bus driver would say ni hao and I'll be like ni hao too. Maybe I was being ignorant and being racist myself, but it's really hard. And throughout the years, and 10, I don't know, like, and now in 2022, I was nearly going to say 2021, I think that like pretty much everybody knows what Korea is, or at least like has heard about Korea or K-pop or K-drama or I don't know what. So it's really strange, and really I've done nothing to do with this success or this growth, but feel very proud, I guess. So I assume that, oh, I'm gonna say like so 300 million times, so bear with, but I imagine you already got a taste of who I am, a very chatterboxy person, chatterbox, Miss Little Chatterbox, and going on 300,000 tangents, and I haven't even shown you my knits or talked about what I'm going to talk about in this episode. But I talked about being an Asian kiddo in France as a kid, not knowing what Asia or Korea was, and being proud of what Korea is today. Even though I have done nothing to do it proud or anything. So today, so to start this episode, so to start 2022, I think, yeah, that was where we were left off. So to start this new year, I thought about, like, I was going to do like just a regular podcast episode, and then I was like, oh, but I have a lot of finished objects from last year that I would wish to show you because I really like what I made. And I left off last year with, like, I had those finished object videos that I was trying to keep up with, and that just disappeared. Like, I did not keep up with that at all. But so there are projects that I have made after those, even though despite my life, despite my busyness, I have somewhat made it happen to work on quite a few projects. And actually I was really surprised because I'm not the kind of person to keep track of my projects a lot, so I would just I'm like go in the flow style of knitter. So I don't really plan my projects, I don't really give myself deadlines, I don't really know when I started, when I finished projects, and I'm not the kind of person who really like sees value in keeping track of time in terms of like how much time you spend on a project, how fast you knit it, when you knit it. I'm not the kind of person to do that. So I was actually really surprised, like just gathering some of the knits, like, and I don't think these are not all of the knits I've knit last year. These are just like the knits that I saw in my wardrobe when I went to my wardrobe, and the knits that I really liked how they turned out, and like the knits I really gravitate towards that I've knit last year. So I think there are a few that I have shown you as videos, and then maybe not others, but where were we going again? Sorry, I'm gonna do this a lot. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So these are not all the knits I've knit in 2021, but these are my favorite knits of 2021. Let's start. So it's been quite a while that I've knit these last year, and I'm not the kind, like I just said that I'm like the knit go with the flow knitter, so I'm also not the best note taker. I do not write project pages, I do not keep track of my knitting, I do not. So sometimes what happens is and also I'm like a very not monogamous knitter at all. I have 300 million projects at the same time. You will get to know that very soon, and just spoiler alert, I have 300, like I have a lot going on at the same time, so it also means that I'm not really fast with my knitting. But that aside, yeah, so it means that this will not be like a detailed, informative, full project description video. It will just be like, I'll try to do my best, but then, you know, like, it won't be very good. So I'll just take a little moment to maybe fold these up. Maybe like try to get a thumbnail out of these, but let's try, and then we'll figure out like what happens. So I have a few projects that I have already shown you, but I feel that like maybe you're new to the channel, maybe I don't know, how did you find my channel? Did you find me via Instagram? Did you find me via YouTube? I don't know, it's very strange because I don't know, like, tell me where you're from. Super interested in getting to know you. I know that there are a lot of people who have started to follow me on Instagram. Wait, maybe this pile is going to get a little big. But if you have been watching my Korean videos, my Korean podcast episodes, you might have already seen all of these because they are all projects that I have talked about on my Korean podcast. But you know, as a lot of people have commented, I do not put closed caption on my videos. I'm thinking about maybe like putting some subtitles on like the tutorial-ish videos that I might be like, that I've planned for ages, that I've filmed, but that I might never upload because I am that lazy. Video editing is not my jam. I like taking videos and then I hope I have a magic elf who edits the videos. And then the funny thing is, like, my videos are not like, there's nothing there, like, it's not a production, it's like, it's really like basic, you know. But I think we got a thumbnail there. I just piled the knits, and let's see how many we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and also the one I'm wearing, so 8. So do we want to go in a chronological order? Do I think I remember? So let's attempt a chronological order. And as I've said, these are not all the knits I've knit, but these are the knits I really wear a lot and my favourite ones. So I don't know about you, but like for me, what I call like a successful knit, or like my favourite knits, would be the ones that I wear the most, because I'm more of a product knitter than a process knitter. Of course I like the process, because if I don't like the process I wouldn't like the product as well. But just if you have to pick between like a process knitter or product knitter, I am more of a product knitter. So the final goal of my knitting is to wear them. So I might find like really intriguing pretty patterns. Most of them I find on Instagram. Like in the past, in the past I would always be on Ravelry browsing patterns. So Ravelry was the main source of where I got patterns, got inspiration to what products to knit on. But or otherwise it would be podcasts. But like nowadays in the 21st century, in 2021, 2022, it's more Instagram. So also I find that there's a lot of more knitters on Instagram, especially there's been like a big wave of Korean knitters on Instagram. Before it was pretty much dead. There wasn't a big knitting community at all, but that's like just, I think, coronavirus, COVID. And so like Instagram is the main source of where I get like information about new patterns, pretty patterns, people, other projects that people are knitting. So I tend to save them or directly buy them, which is a very like not good purchasing habit, but that happens because that's my life. You can be you're not really a knitter, you're more of a yarn and pattern hoarder. So yeah, that's me. So of course there are a lot of pretty patterns and patterns that I find interesting, intriguing, but the final motivation for me to focus on a project will always be would I wear it? Does it suit me? Like, would it look nice on me? So there are a lot of projects, especially the more like feminine, frilly, like pretty like pretty is such a vague word, but like the more like lovely style, the patterns that are more like a lovely style, lacy, those patterns, there are loads that I find so pretty, but it's just not for me. So for me, the best patterns are the patterns that I want to wear. So these favorites are also based on that criteria, my knits that I wore the most. So going back in time, like I don't know like which one I finished first, but it's between one of these. So both of these have a separate video, but I just wanted to show them to you because I guess that not everybody have watched the back episodes. So these are both shawls, and they are humongous shawls. And that's my dog just peeping around. So this is the Pressed Flowers shawl by Amy Christoffers, also known as Savory Knitting on Instagram. And I actually saw this on Instagram. I don't know if like it was all over Instagram at that point, or I just randomly stumbled upon the photo and I was like, I have to knit that. And I like basically, it was 2 AM and I purchased the pattern, I figured out my yarn, and then I started knitting. So this is actually like a mosaic knitting pattern, so it looks really complicated and it looks really fancy, but it's actually just mosaic knitting, so there's nothing really complicated about it. You're not even working color work, so each time you're knitting a row you're just only working one color, but it's like just like a combination of slip stitches, knit stitches, purl stitches maybe, or maybe it's on the other side, I'm not sure, but basically it's not as complicated as it looks like. I have a separate video for this, so I won't go in like full detail, but I used like a more of a DK weight, worsted weight yarn, and I knit this in like I think 4.5 millimeters. You can check out the original videos for more accurate information. I'll try to put out like the basic information in the down bar, but that's what I used. The yarn isn't like a steadily available knitting yarn, it's a cone yarn that I used at the time, so it's wool yarn, and then the maroon color is more like a wool acrylic mixture. So the modifications I made on this shawl is it's a triangular shawl, so it's a triangular shawl, so you can knit as large as you want it to be. You just have to like continue increasing. So that's what I did, and I also omitted the second part of the pattern. It's basically very similar to the main pattern, but the flowers are more crowded, are less apart, and I didn't really like that look, so I really like this look. So I just omitted that pattern and I just continued in this original pattern, and then I just changed the border a little bit, and I like there were a lot of people who asked me about this border on Instagram, but basically what I did is I just repeated this. You know, it's actually the same pattern as this pattern in the main body, but I just flipped the colors around, and what I did is I think I I knit on both wrong side and right side for 2 rows to create this like ridge, and then I did this inversed patterning, if you just want to have a closer look. So this row, so this is the end of the pattern, and I just did like a garter ridge here, so knit 2 rows on the flip side as well, and then I just did the pattern, but I flipped this colors around, and then I bound off on the wrong side, so I would finish with like more of this garter pearl side ridge. So that's what I did for the pattern. And what I did is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pattern repeats, and it's humongous, and I love how cozy it is. Like in winter, it's just like the best shawl that you can have. It's really squishy and really, really warm, and so pretty, and it's like my favorite colors, so it just goes with everything I have. Like literally this sweater as well, it goes so well. So this is my first pattern. I've been talking too much, it's just my first pattern, and let's hope that we will get done before it gets too dark, because it's actually already starting to get dark and we're losing some light. But that's that. So that's my first pattern. The second knit is the Moonlight Garden Shawl by not Andrea Mari. I have the impression that I say Andrea Mari for everything, and everything has to be said Andrea Mari. But this is the Moonlight Garden Shawl by Melody Hoffmann, so B Mandarins on Instagram, and I love her knitting channel. So I followed her, like it's been quite a while that I follow her. But if you do not know Melody Hoffmann, I assume that everybody knows Melody. But if you don't know, like check out her YouTube channel. It's like so cozy. So cozy, like I don't know, I love her aesthetic. But this is the Moonlight Garden Shawl by Melody, and it's not like a recent pattern. It's been out for quite a while, and it's actually my second iteration of it. The first iteration I knitted in like a fingering yarn, so the suggested pattern is written in more like a DK weight, so I think it's 4.5 millimeters in the pattern. But for the first iteration I knitted in a fingering weight yarn, so in like 3.5 mil, but I lost it. I actually liked it a lot, but I just lost it. I lost it in Paris, and I was really devastated because I really loved how it turned out, and I took ages knitting that edge, but I really liked the pattern, and it was always like in the back of my heart, like in the back of my head, I really need to knit one. I really need to re-knit this pattern because I love it so much. And then I got my hands on some Nutiden yarn, and I was like, oh, this is it. And I had bought two skeins of Mohair I had purchased 2 skeins of Mohair silk, lace silk, and Mohair kids silk Mohair, kids silk Mohair lace from Hedgehog Fibres at Knit with Attitude in London. So I had gone to London to do like a musical knit yarn shop tour when I was living in Paris just before COVID hit, and I had bought 2 skeins of Mohair, just like I did have something in mind. Like normally I wanted to buy some like hand dyed Mohair in order to knit myself a no frills sweater, but that just didn't happen, and I just got these 2 Mohair lace skeins that I was being really precious about, and they just felt like perfectly in terms of colour with the Nutiden yarn that I had bought. So it's Nutiden yarn in I think like some sand colorway, and the Mohair is cereal. So Nutiden yarn don't reproduce their colorways, but Hedgehog Fibres have like consistent colors. So if you want to check it out, it's cereal. So I used most of the 2 skeins of Mohair, so there are 50 grams of Mohair, and then I don't know how much of the Nutiden skeins plates I've used, but I had bought I think like about 3 plates. I think I used 3 plates. I still have some left, but here you go. It's super massive. So pleased with it. It's like a schlank kit, and I really wanted it to be this big, because despite how much I really liked the first iteration, I found it to be too small and it would barely go around my neck. But this one, like it's a schlank kit. You can use it as a blanket. And so I really love this pattern. It's like a it's a semi-circular shawl, as you can see, and the hard part about it is each time you increase it, basically it doubles your stitch count until like this, maybe this much. You're really having fun because it's turning out really pretty, and then each time you increase it, like just doubles up the stitches, and it just take ages to knit a row, but it's really worth it. And the patterning is so enticing, so pretty. Like, it's basically most of it is knit, purl and eyelets, but just the combination makes it really pretty. And also another, I guess, good point. Another advantage of this shawl is that it's two-sided. So no, it's reversible. It's reversible. So on the pattern there is a right side and a wrong side. And actually, because it's not really that obvious, I actually put a marker on the right side just for me when I was reading the pattern, I would know which one was the wrong right side, because at some point it was really hard to figure out. And also, like, the pattern is well written, but it's just there's a lot of jumping around in the pattern. So for example, you'll be at row, I don't know, like, I'm just doing a random number, but you'll be at like row 100 and it will say like repeat rows 30 to 40. So there's a lot of jumping around and you just need to pay attention and just do not lose track of it. So I use my iPad to follow patterns, so you really need to be like following your patterns and just writing down what you've knit, where you're at, going back to some places and stuff. But it was really worth, like, like, it's not even a challenge, but it just means that you have to pay attention to the pattern. And since they're not like, it's not like the triangular shawl, it's not like the pressed flower shawl, where once you got the pattern under your belt, you're good to go. Like, you just do the increases, continue in the pattern. This one is more like each section is very different. You have to keep track of how many rows you've knit, what patterns comes next and stuff. So you do really have to have your pattern under your armpit. Do you even say that? But you do really have to check on the pattern. And also, once you think you've finished and you have 3 million stitches and the eyelets, I love these eyelets. Like, Melody really uses these eyelets really well. I have knit the Hollows shawl as well, and like, just those eyelets, oh my god, they're so pretty. But like, once you think you're done, you're not done, because this knitting lace border also take ages, because the shawl is very big. But the good part about this shawl ridge edge is that this is a repetitive pattern, so you don't really need to keep checking on the pattern. You can just continue and you're done. So this, like, I have nothing to say, nothing bad to say about this pattern, and I just want everybody to knit it. I really like the combination with the Nutiden yarn, the Mohair yarn, and this pattern. Melody is like, I feel like a very good, like, I don't think she's an ambassador, but I think her aesthetic really ties nicely with the Nutiden yarn. So Nutiden yarn is very it's like a unspun roving style of yarn. So for people who are more used to the regular, like, spinned plied yarn, it might be very new and very hard to work with, but it does have a lot of, it has its charm. I guess it is hard to knit with in terms of it can break a lot, but I think it's really charming, and like for me, Melody and Nutiden are really like the same world, same aesthetic, and for me to be able to combine those two worlds aesthetics for me is really nice, and I think the pattern works really nice with the yarn I've chosen, even though that since Nutiden yarn is not the yarn with the most stitch definition, it doesn't really show off all of, like, maybe like here for example there's like chevrons in pearl stitch, but it doesn't really pop out, the texture doesn't pop out, but still I'm really pleased with how it works, how it looks like. And also I knew going in that this combo doesn't have a lot of stitch definition, and I knit it with being okay with that rendu. So just disclaimer, so if you want to knit, you have to really know how the yarn you have to know the characteristics of your yarn in order to really like project how the finished object will come out, because you know, like for example, like this type of like unspun yarn does not have a good stitch definition. Imagine you're going to work like moss stitch, or I don't know, like something where like stitch definition is really key to the texture. You don't really want to like waste your time knitting like a full sweater or I don't know what, and just be upset about like all the texture not showing off. So yeah, you know what I mean. So like the general rule is, of course this varies from like yarn, but like the more round the yarn is, the stitch definition is good, and like cables will pop out, texture will pop out, and all. But like on the reverse side, if you're going for color work, the more loftier yarns, woolen spun yarns, non-superwash yarns would be the yarn to go. So everything has their own characteristics and has their like pros and cons. You just have to really know how to match the projects with the knits, and then you won't be upset about anything. So that's the two shawls. Maybe I'll just do the shawls first, and I don't know when I knit this, but it's I think it's in the first part. No, it wasn't. I finished this in summer, but since we're going with the shawls first, we'll stick with the shawls. So this, I'm showing it you on the wrong side. So this is a massive shawl again. So as you can see, I like big shawls. I really like having like wrapping myself in shawls. Like I really like blanket size shawls. Of course they are a pain to knit, because basically it's like knitting a garment. You're basically using like 400 grams of yarn, and that's what you would use for a garment. But for me it's all about wearing the products. So for me, if I'm wearing a shawl, it's because I want to stay warm. If you have like I don't know, like a skinny scarf, it won't keep you warm. So for me it's all about product, and I like cozy shawls for the winter when it's cold. You might be surprised, but it really gets cold in Korea. It really gets hot as well. So like we have extremes. We do not have calm weather here. Well, very briefly, like we get 2 weeks of spring, and like proper spring and proper autumn, and then the rest is like winter, and then deep winter, and summer, and deep summer. We always joke about this, and it's not funny because it's not nice. But so this is the Korpsång shawl by, oh my god, forgot her name, but it's Elk Market. I'm really bad, sorry. It's the Korpsång shawl. I'm really sorry. I'm just Lotta. I'll put a subtitle. But it's Elk Market on Instagram, and she owns an online yarn shop as well in the forest. Oh, it sounds so cool. So this is the Korpsång shawl, and it's a shawl from the 52 Weeks of Shawls by Line magazine, and I really love it. I saw, like, when I saw the photo of like the promo shots when Lina was putting up like Instagram photos before that they dropped the book, I saw this one and I was like, oh, that one is the one I'm going to knit. So it's a triangular shawl that you start from the edge. So it starts tiny and then it just grows massive. And what you're doing is that this part is like a subtle lace texture. So it's like, I think it's like called a bird lace texture. So you're just following these birds. So you're just continuing to increase with these like very subtle texture, and that at some point you start this garterage, and this garterage goes like forms like a diagonal. I'm really bad with my words, but until you meet the other side. So basically there's this lace part and this garter part of the shawl, and I feel like this garter detail just really so pretty. I'm not the biggest fan of garter stitch, but like when you wrap it around, you can just see this garter stitch on one side and the lace on one side, and I just really like this balance, and it just ties very nicely. So this is how you knit it. And then one thing that I misunderstood about the pattern. Oh, I actually talked about this has a video on its own. So I've just been chatting for an hour and it's been like a replay. But rest assured, I do have other patterns that I haven't talked about. Rest assured. But for this detailing stitch, I thought it was like more of like a color work detail before going into the pattern, and then I actually found out when I was like getting prepped with the yarn that it was actually like stitching. So basically what you do is you just knit like a big white shawl, and then you do the stitching at the end. And yeah, the stitching wasn't really fun because look how long the edge is. Like, it's my height, so 1.50 m-ish, little less than 60-ish. So you're like sewing this embroidery detail on 1.50 m worth length. So like you need like a 3 meters worth of yarn, and you're stitching that like that. So that wasn't the most pleasant experience, but it was worth it because I really like how it turned out. And then these tassels are the cutest. Look, really fan of these tassels. So just in general, I really love this pattern. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. The yarn was lovely to use, and like, yeah. So what I've used is this white is the Fibre Co. Cumbria fingering in white heather. I used, I think, 3 skeins, and then the tassels are like the embroidery stitch, and the tassel is the same yarn in Grizedale forest, but it's a discontinued colour. I really like the colour and it's discontinued. I'm really sad, but that's what happens. You have to stick with it, right? So I thought nope, I do not have any of the same colour to show you, but it's this yarn. It's the Fibre Co. Cumbria fingering. It's called fingering, but it's more of a sport weight yarn. So I used 4mm needles for this, and yeah, I assume I'm hungry. So I used 4mm for this, and I think that I really like the gauge of this, and yeah. Really recommend this yarn. It's 90% wool. It's merino and masham wool, so it has this like heathered colorway because the masham is like grayish. Oh, but not for the white. Not for the white color, but for the other colors it's like heathered. And then there's 10% mohair, so you have this like mohair halo, and it's just really, really nice. So you get this mohair halo even though you're just basically knitting with one strand of yarn. Really, really recommend it, and I really, really like this yarn for shawls. Like each time I want to knit a shawl pattern, I'm like, oh, Cumbria fingering. And then I'm like, oh, but I've knit all my shawls in Cumbria fingering. So I try to hold myself, but sometimes it doesn't take. Next pattern. So let's keep on track with the mohair fuzz. So this is, oh, I really, really love this one. This is a pattern from Making Stories magazine, issue 5. It's the Bindweed cardigan by Ksenia and Naidyon. I actually bought the magazine with me. It's this one. It's actually the cover girl report. But yeah, so I think I've seen, yeah, it is available as a single download. Yeah, it's available as a single download also on Ravelry, so Ksenia Naidyon, check it out. And she's Life is Cozy on Instagram, so there you go. So this is the cover girl of Making Stories magazine issue 5, and this is a top down cardigan, open cardigan, like a v-neck cardigan here, and it's cropped length, and then there's these like super pretty cable patterning on the sleeves and also on the button band, which is not a button band because it's an open cardigan. So, oh, it's really pretty, and I haven't finished weaving in this, or I don't know what's happening, but here. So the sleeves are slightly, it's not like a poofy sleeve, well, I don't know, but it's like, so it's kind of poofy. Like how I explain stuff. But look how it's like designed so intricate how the cabling falls into the ribbing, right? It's so well thought out, so pretty, really, really like it. It's like a raglan. It's a raglan shaping, and yeah, and if I remember correctly, you start the pattern by knitting this border, so this ridge, and then you pick up the stitches. So it means that the neckline is like, look at the finishing. It's so seamless and so professional. Like there's like, look at it. So you start like with the ridge, and then you do the raglan increases, so the ridge that you knit flows so beautifully into the button band. I really, really like how it turned out. What else is there to say? Oh, and the finishing on the bottom is a folded hem. So like this, so it's not like you don't do any ribbing. I was like, you don't do any ribbing, it just falls in a stockinette finishing and in the pattern. So I just made sure here, oh, does this have a, this might have a video. I just made sure here to finish on the cable, and then I did the inside hem. Inside hem. Really good with my words. And then you just sew down the folded hem. Oopsies, can you have a look here? No. I'm really, really bad with focusing today, and it's getting dark. So you just sew down the folded hem. And it's like super nice finishing, super nice design. Love the details. I used a fingering, like a hand-dyed fingering speckled yarn with Knitting for Olive silk mohair, like silk lace mohair, silk mohair, you get what I mean. Silk mohair in the caramel colour, and it is gorgeous, gorgeous. So I really like this pattern, and I really recommend this pattern for, you know, like any hand-dyed speckled yarn that you've been hoarding, because I find that it's just the nicest pattern to use. Speckled yarn, it has a lot of stock in it, and like the sleeves, all of course they have these cables, but the cables are just like, I think that these, like, they're big cables that have just enough detail and showcases the yarn as well. So really recommend this pattern. I knit this in like a size 4 I think. So this is how it turned out, and of course I like cropped sweaters to start with, so really like this length. But if you're a little bit uncomfortable with too much cropped, if you're uncomfortable with cropped sweaters, you can of course like lengthen it. And also I only used, whoopsies, I'm not sure, I don't know how much I used, but I think I used like 3 skeins, not sure, 3 skeins of superwash merino fingering hand-dyed speckle yarn, and some matching mohair yarn. Did I use 2 skeins? No, I think I used 3 skeins. Like, these do have like poofy sleeves. So another modification I made was like the modification I made was I actually knit the sleeves flat, because I didn't want to deal with figuring out if I was in the wrong side or the wrong side for the cabling pattern. If you knit it flat, it's pretty much intuitive, so you're just like purling and knitting on the wrong side, and then on the right side you're doing the cable stitches. So that's just a detail I made. You don't really have to do it, it might be a fuss to do, but I don't really mind sewing seams. So that's how I did this one. This is the Bindweed cardigan by Ksenia Naidyon. Really recommend. Really pretty, and I wore it quite a bit in like the early spring season. Next pattern is this one. I'm trying to get quicker. It's really like ironic, because I think these are all like patterns I've talked about, and like I'm going to talk about the patterns that I haven't talked about, and then like the sun is disappearing. So really thoughtful. Okay. So this is also a cable pattern. So it's an all over cabled sweater. It's the top down Aran sweater by Knitry. So this is a Korean pattern, and I do not think it's available in English. And yeah, so I've got a lot of questions about like where you can download this pattern, but I don't think it's available in English or on Ravelry or as a digital download. So I did actually hesitate to put it in this section, but I assumed that like, but I still wanted to show it because I really like it. So this is a top down raglan style Aran sweater. So this raglan is less steep the word. It's quite like it's less, the increases are more subtle, so you get quite a rounded shape. And this really, it just depends on how you prefer your raglan sweaters, and also just like your body type. But I don't think it's the most flattering on me, but I still knit it according to the pattern. And I do wear it, and did wear it a lot actually, so I don't think it bothers me that much. But it's an Aran sweater, like a full-on cable sweater in white, like a white Aran sweater. What could be wrong about that, right? So I love these diamond cables, just the details, and I actually love these like mini cables in between the diamonds. I really think that this gives like an interest that is really pretty. And this was like, even though it looks very complicated, it's actually really intuitive once you get to know the pattern. And like if the increases are regular, so it means like they have a particular rate. So if it's like an increase every 2 rounds or every 4 rounds, it's really easy to keep track of it, and you don't really need to refer to the pattern at that point. And so I really had fun knitting this pattern, and I wear it a lot. Really soft yarn, and nothing really to say much about it. So when I ever knit like Aran patterns, I just make sure it's the same for the Bindweed cardigan, but I just make sure like when you're finishing it, because if you finish it like at a random point, so this might be nice, but I personally don't want to cut the diamond in half. So I just really pay attention to when I'm going to finish the pattern, and I like personally can sacrifice length over pattern finishing stop. And same for the well, I missed it a little bit on the sleeves, but I don't think it's like a big strange thing. I would have liked to finish it here, but maybe I knit a few more rows. But I just make sure that like everything like flows smoothly, and I don't cut the pattern at a strange point. Like I am never going to like stop an Aran sweater like here. That will not work for me. I'll have to like stop it here, but I do like putting like this detail in. So you just need to like put, like, those are some stuff you have to like, so those are some stuff you might have to think about when you're doing cables, especially like when you're doing like big pattern cables, just to think about in just to think in advance, like when you're going to stop the pattern, when it's going to flow nicely, and just not to finish at an awkward point. So this sweater was knit in 3.5mm needles. It's quite cropped, as you can see, but it's not really short for me. You can check out pictures on my Instagram. If I have the time, I'll just try to pop a photo here. And yep, so it's Rico Designs Super 100 in the whitest color white. It's like pure white. Yeah, so I really like this. Next up is also like a whitish one. This is also a Korean pattern, but it's also available in English. So like I never really knit Korean patterns. I've always like started knitting an English pattern. So I always knit English patterns, but these were two designers I really wanted to support in Korea, and I just really loved the design they came up with. So this is the Waffle Cardigan by Miele Workshop, also known as Kim In Young, and she also does a lot, like she also has some designs in the recent pom-poms and the recent line magazines, so you might be familiar with her. And yeah, so I can't download her English patterns on Ravelry because she's Korean and there's like some curfew with PayPal. You can't pay Koreans on PayPal. Strange. I don't like why. So I bought the Korean pattern, but I believe the English pattern must be as good as the Korean pattern. So this one is the Waffle Cardigan, and I just fell in love with this texture. It's a really simple texture. It's just eyelets and cables, but it's really pretty. And this was released as a kid's cardigan, and I was just eyeing her Instagram, just waiting for an adult version release. And as soon as it came, well, not as soon as it came out, but I bought it as soon as it came out, and then I was like, oh, what should I knit it in? And then I thought about, I figured this combo out, and it's so pretty, right? It's a little bit different than the original gauge, so my gauge was bigger than in the original pattern, and also I went a size up in terms of the needles. So I knit this in a 5mm for the body, I think 4.5 for the ribbon, but the body is in a 5mm. I think the pattern is written in a 4.5. But you know, like you always should choose the needle size based on the fabric of your knitting. So I always like you have to be happy with the fabric you're knitting, and like the most important part is not getting gauge so it's the same as the pattern, because imagine you're getting the same gauge as the pattern but your fabric is like super stiff. You're gonna end up with a garment that you're not going to wear. So even if you have to do the math or like accommodate to then try to figure out your sizing from the gauge you have, you always have to prioritize the fabric you are making, because that's what you're gonna get. So I knit this in the size 1, the first size, and to start with, it's quite an oversized. It's quite an oversized cardigan, but I think it turned out a little bit bigger than the original pattern. It's knit in pieces. So you have to knit the front, the back. No, you knit the front and the back. So you knit the body at the same time, and then you separate. You separate the front and back. You separate for the front and back, and then you knit the sleeve. And then you knit the sleeves separately. So as you can see, I just folded this up, I should have thought it out in advance, but as I said, my gauge was bigger than the original pattern, so obviously it was the rendu, the knitted garment was bigger than what this was coming out, bigger than what was said in the pattern. And also I am small and my arms are short. So I just should have thought that in advance and maybe knit less rows for the arms, but I did not do that. And once I had finished the garment, blocked it, the sleeves had grown, they were up to here. But I just folded it. I folded them up, and I wear this basically every day. This is my go-to cardigan at the home. So this is my go-to cardigan around the house. I really like it. I really love this yarn. It's super squishy. So I don't want to talk about softness because it's really personal, and soft means very, the softness is really different for everybody, but for me, I consider this a very soft yarn. It's 100% wool. It's American wool and cormo, and it's really soft for me, but you might be used to superwash merino and think it's not soft, but it's a soft wool yarn. It's the Daylights yarn by Harrisville Designs, and really pretty. So it's really hard to catch on camera, but this is the Daylights yarn too, but it's in another colorway. This is the Bloodshot color, and it's like the red version. Basically, okay, yeah, the camera doesn't really want to focus, but so basically what this series is the base is a white yarn, and then there's this colored dust that is incorporated in the yarn, is spinned in the yarn. So it means that it's white, whitish color to start with, but it has tint of a certain other color. So this is the red one, and this is over easy, so it's the yellow one, and it's really pretty. I just love that slight tint of yellow. I'm a sucker for yellow, so really recommend the yarn and the pattern combo together. It's just perfect. And then I really like what I did with the buttons. So these are buttons that I bought ages ago, and some people think that I created these buttons together, but actually that's not true. I'm not taking credit for this. I actually bought a random pack, and these were a set together. And at the time I found them super cute, but I was like, but what I'm going to use these for? And then it was a match. It was a perfect match, because this could seem quite a simple piece. It is full on texture, but it's it's not very busy texture either. So I think that the buttons really give a good accent to the piece, and it's yellow. The yarn has a yellow tint. So pleased. So this is the Waffle Cardigan by Miele Workshop. Really recommend. And if you don't know what you want to knit it with, Harrisville Designs Daylights or Nightshades. Nightshades is the black version of Daylights. Really pretty as well. So this is the green one, and the other one was the red one. So Fever Dream and VCR. But this is over easy. Recommend like 5 stars, 5 stars. So we are losing a lot of sunlight and it's getting really red, but I'll try to finish this. So as I've said, I haven't washed them. Like, these are like knits that I've been wearing. I haven't washed them for the podcast, so they might be like stuff stuck to them, but just bear with. This one is also like, it's quite a recent make. Like, this is the recentest the most recent make, and this is just before that one. So this is the Shawl Sweater by Ronya. Okay, I'm not good with her name. I'll put it, sorry for butchering the name. It's Ronya Hakoleto or something. Sorry. I'll put subtitles, all the information is in the down bar. So this is all over cabled sweater. So cropped, well, I cropped it. It wasn't cropped to start with, but I cropped it. So it's drop shoulder, all over cabled sweater, and like the base is garter stitch, so it's a lot of garter stitching. And I really love this, and I wear this like basically every time I can. Every time that I wear this, like every day. I've worn this a lot already. So this is knit bottom up. So you knit the body first, and then you pick up the stitches for the sleeves, and then you just knit the sleeves. So basically what you do for the sleeves is, so it's a drop shoulder, but it's not like a squared drop shoulder. It has like this, I don't know how to call this, but like armpit decreases. It has some like shaping, armpit shaping, and then so you pick up the stitches for the arm, and then you put some short rows in to match the armpit decreases. It might not be armpit decreases, but yeah. So you use some short rows to accommodate for for the armpit decreases. So it's super clever because, like, you know, like your regular drop shoulder, for the regular drop shoulder patterns, there's a lot of bunchings under the armpit, but how this is like cleverly worked out is that it minimizes this very not flattering excess armpit fabric while keeping the drop shoulder shaping. So I think it's really pretty. Yay! So what could I talk about? So so this was one of the patterns that was published but like when Too Cool introduced the DK weight yarn. This was, I think, the first pattern that came out, and I saw like the Instagram post or something, and I was like, I have to knit this, because like these cables are just so pretty. These cables are just so pretty. Really pretty. So Too Cool wool is a woolen spun yarn, so it's not the go-to yarn that I would recommend for like cabling or textured patterns, but since this pattern, so you can see that like the cables don't like pop out, but still I find it that it works really well with all the garter ribbing, all the garter stitch, and it does really look very pretty. I just really like how the cabling pattern works. Ooh, just really nice. And then, so what you just have to be careful about is, so when we do cabling, we are like we automatically sometimes think that it will be purled rows for the background stitches, but you have to keep in mind that it's garter stitching. So you're working in the round actually, so it means that like the advantage of garter stitch when you're working flat is that you just knit all the rows, but since you're working in the round, you actually have to knit and purl. But it's not that complicated. So really recommend this one. And then I personally just cropped it to the length I would wear. So when you're cropping a bottom-up sweater, what you have to do is you have to check the measurements that are written in the pattern instructions, and then figure out what length you want to knit it, and then you have to do the math. So for example, so if you want to cut 10 centimeters off the pattern based on the finished measurements of the pattern, what you'll have to do is, for example, if it says to, I don't know, this is a random number, but if it says knit 30 centimeters before the armpit, what does it say, before splitting for the back and front, you will have to deduct 10 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit sad because we're losing light, and this is like my recent finished object and I actually really like it, so really sad that I'm losing light and it looks not as pretty as it actually is. But you'll just have to think that it's a little bit more pretty than it looks like, because we do not have any light at the moment. But this is the Tropfen sweater by Julia Exner, and it was in the recent Making Stories magazine, so issue 6 of the Making Stories magazine. So apparently I'm knitting all of the Making Stories magazine. But this is what you're looking at. It's like, it's also a cropped length. Well, I cropped it again, obviously, but it's a top-down yoke sweater, and you can see that there's like this gorgeous patterning with colour work and bobble stitches. Really pretty. And then also these details come back in the sleeves, as you can see here. And like it's not the same patterning, but you know, like it just gives like a hint of this patterning. And there's also the bobble stitches on the sleeves. Really pretty. Really pretty. I actually worked ages on it because, as I said, I was just super busy for the end of the last year, for like the end of last year, for the second half of last year. So it just took ages to knit it, and I actually had the privilege to start ahead because I'm a stockist of Making Stories magazine, but I might be like one of the last to knit it. Yeah, so I used the Beige Le Petit Lamsoul beige colour for the main colour, and for the contrasting colour I use Tuku wool fingering in the half colour, so it's like a deep purple, a slightly warm deep purple. And so these two yarns have different weight. Like, so the Beige Le Petit Lamsoul is a light fingering weight, whereas the Tuku wool fingering is like more of your regular fingering. Is 400 meters for 100 grams, 200 meters for 50 grams, because they come in 50 gram skeins. But so it means that this, like, the contrasting color is a little bit thicker than the main color, but I still went with it because I really liked how it looked like. And I did check, like, when did I swatch? I don't think I swatched, but I did check, like, I did keep an eye out when I was doing the yoke, and like you can't really, like, you can't really see any of the floats in the back, which for me is a sign that it's fine, because if you can see the floats in the back and it's like a little bit translucent, I wouldn't be okay with that. But the Le Petit Lamsoul, even though it's like quite a fine fingering weight, so it's a light fingering weight, I think you have more than 500 meters per, or like a roundish 500 meters for 100 grams. So it is quite light. Since it's woolen spun, it has this tendency to really grip once you to really grip on each other once you wash it. That's why it makes it like a super great color work yarn. So I would say, like, really try it out, but I'm really happy with how this turned out, even if I was using Tuku wool fingering for the contrasting color. If you don't want to just fuss around with having issues with different weights, what I would recommend is just use the same yarn when you're doing color work, so you don't have to really worry about having like gauge differences, because, like, as you can see, like, the fabric for the two wool color, a two wool fingering is like not denser, but you can see it's less holier. Like denser would be denser would be the right word, but if like if you don't want to fuss around with density and gauge and stuff, just use the same yarn, then you don't have to worry about that. So this was knit in like a 3.25 millimeters. You work it top down, and I just cut it at a length where I was comfortable with. Just one thing you have to be aware is the sleeves. So I am small and I have short arms, as I have said previously, but I didn't really accommodate for that enough. I did, but it wasn't enough. So when I was knitting the sleeves, so I'd already like taken out some rows, and I was just about to knit the color work for the detailing on the sleeves, and like it was going to finish like way too long. So what happened is, for the first sleeve, but I couldn't rip back. I was already working on this project for a month, so I couldn't rip back. So what I did is I had to like surgery this part, and I took I took out like a good 8 centimeters of the sleeves. Maybe not 8, but quite a bit, like 6-7 centimeters, like 6, 7 and 8, same thing. I did take quite a bit out of fabric of the sleeves, and then luckily I hadn't started the second sleeve, so I just accommodated to make it identical. So what I did is I added all the increases in like the first rows, so I would get the right stitch amount for the pattern in the end. So if I'm not wrong, I knit the size 3, but I just had to shorten the sleeves. So there you go. So I was actually quite worried when I was like halfway through the sweater, because I found like the yoke was maybe like too, I don't know, like too round, too like, maybe I was worried that I knit the wrong size because it looked too big for me. But once I blocked it and everything, I really love how it's looking. So as you can see, it's quite like I have quite a lot of positive ease in it. That's what I was going for, because I really liked how it looked on the cover front design, and I wear this a lot. Like you know like when you really like your knits, you're really precious about them. So I would be wearing this, and then I have to work, and then I'll be like, oh no, like my precious sweater, I don't want to get anything on it. So this is the kind of sweater I do that with, and I just really like it. So I'm less precious about my tuku wool sweater, but I think it's more like a psychological thing, where the tuku DK is actually quite like a rustic yarn, and it's not the softest. So I would consider like Le Petit Lamb's wool softer than tuku wool, and then like Harrisville Designs is the softest among the three. Like this doesn't compare to these two yarns, even though like this one is also like 100% wool. But tuku wool, I feel like the DK is more like it's not itchy, but it's not soft, so it's rustic. But I feel like maybe it's just like because it's spun less finer, but the tuku wool DK does feel more rustic than the tuku wool fingering, in my personal opinion. But that's just personal. And also I've recently started to knit the wider sweater from liner 13, which is also using tuku wool DK, but I'm knitting it with a strand of mohair, and I don't know, with some magical thing, you cannot feel the rusticness of tuku wool DK. It's magic. It's really strange, but really good also. But I don't really care about like the rusticness, but since I know that it's rustic and hard wearing, I don't have any issues with doing whatsoever in that jumper. But as I know that I knit this in like a 3.25 millimeters, I think it's like psychological, but I'm like, oh, I'm like, this might rip because it's so like, the fabric is so not light, but so fine, the fabric is so thin. It's so thin. But if like just talking about, I just like touched the fabric, and actually, as I said, like once you wash it, the yarn has a tendency like to grip really well. The Petit Lambswool, I think Tucool is similar as well, but the Petit Lambswool really has like this high characteristics where it really grips on really well. So like I don't really have to be careful about this fabric. It's really like it's not bulletproof, of course, but it won't break easily, even though like in the yarn form it looks super thin. Like the knitted fabric is really quite sturdy. So this is my recent make, and I'm really pleased about it. And okay, I'm losing color, guys, but thankfully I am done with all my chattiness, and I think I've been like rambling too much about the knits, and maybe I've spent a little bit too much time on all the knits that I've already talked about. So super intelligent of me, but oh yeah, I did talk about the colours. I was like, oh, I didn't talk about the colours. Yes, I did. So next time I'll try to come back with my current projects. I do have a lot of current projects as well, so I assume that will be a lengthy episode as well. So thank you for sticking with me. I hope you had a nice time. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, a wonderful month. I hope I'll be back soon. So happy knitting. Bye bye.